so he felt the need to compensate. Finally, there was one beautiful, transparent credit card which shimmered like a puddle of petrol and had a limit of £11,000. He used it to pay off some of the smaller credit cards and make the minimum monthly payment on the middle-sized ones. Whenever this one needed servicing, he would take out another bantamweight card or a short-term advance. Genevieve knew nothing of his 17-card private Ponzi scheme. As far as she could see, both she and Carl worked damn hard all week, then collapsed, exhausted, and spent all weekend either asleep or streaming complete seasons of American dramas to get back to full strength. Whenever they had some time off, they both came down with head colds. It never occurred to her that they might be living beyond their means, and it took 3 years for Carl to finally max out his most copious line of credit, the rat queen of his nest of cards. After that, letters printed in red ink started to arrive. Statements with lateness penalties, interest on the lateness penalties, penalties for exceeding the credit limit, and lateness penalties on those penalties, punitive rates of interest and demands for final settlement. The double dose of sleeping pills he was taking with a tumbler of mid-priced brandy to silence the grinding gears of his incipient ruination stopped working. He was getting crotchety with Genevieve, and it was upsetting her. His very raison d'être was not to upset Genevieve, it was, so he told himself, the reason he'd got into so much debt in the first place, and yet it had led to him upsetting her anyway. Maybe I should kill myself, he thought, looking at his face in the communal bathroom mirror one winter morning, his cheeks covered in shaving foam. He pressed the 5-blade ultra-smooth advanced wet shave system safety razor to his left wrist and shaved a parmesan-thin centimetre of flesh. Blood appeared like a watermark. It really, really stung. Maybe not. He put his watch on over the top of it. The tiny abrasion tingled and throbbed sporadically throughout the day. It made him laugh. Carl thought of a story he'd once heard about a would-be martyr in the 3rd century who was on his way to the capital with every intention of being tortured and killed for his faith. He had to break his journey, and a monk put him up in an old barn and in the morning asked him how his night had been. He complained about the draught and the flea bites, and the monk told him that he probably wasn't ready to face martyrdom. Carl knew what to do. He wrote to his anonymous employers. Anyone he had ever worked for, all 82 email addresses. He needed more work, better work, urgently, whatever it was. He got only one reply, from someone called Soot Barnslig, offering to make him supervisor for 2 click farms, enlisting people from around the world to generate fake traffic for websites, paying them out of the same reserve from which he would draw his own fee. The work was menial and morally dubious, but the pay was better than his fake copywriting, and he started to make a dent in the most pressing credit cards. Actually, said Soot Barnslig, after Carl had been successfully paying down his 17 debts for a fortnight and was starting to get some rest again, actually, the click farms were a front for an enormous skimming operation. Soot Barnslig confessed that he was stealing tiny amounts from thousands of different accounts and credit cards, amounts too small to be noticed by their owners, and Carl was unwittingly assisting him. Carl emailed Soot Barnslig. "Why did you tell me that?" and carried on. Unfortunately, Soot Barnslig had either been compromised by investigators or had been an undercover agent all along. Carl was required to give up his laptop, and in desperation he called his old university roommate Keston, an accountant, told him everything and tried not to cry during their preliminary conversation. "Oh, K-Pax," said Keston. "You've got yourself in a right pickle, haven't you? That gross yellow one. Am I going to prison?" "This is where being male, middle class and white comes into its own," said Keston. "Nothing but safety nets. And you've touched the hem of the right garment." Keston organised a lawyer who failed to adequately demonstrate Carl's ignorance, and now it seemed that Carl was going to have to spend some time in a low-security prison. The young, owlish notary public had been talking for some time.